Hello, and welcome to the Movie Mouth Film and TV Podcast. This week, we'll be discussing the latest movie news, film trailers, and new release reviews, with what should be called our Washington Family Review section. We have Denzel, starring in HBO Max detective caper The Little Things, and his son, John David Washington, starring opposite Zendaya in Netflix's lockdown-produced Malcolm and Marie, and our only movie review this week not starring a Washington, and we're just fines with that, is archeology period drama The Dig, also coming at us thick and fast from the flicks of net. On top of it all, every week we discuss a classic film in our video store corner section, and this week we'll be heading deep undercover with Chevy Chase and Dan Ackroyd in 1980s Cold War spy comedy, Spies Like Us. More of that later in the show. This is Miles, coming to you live from sunny Miami, Florida. And as ever, I'm joined by a man who, upon our very first meeting, told me,
"What you looking at? You all a bunch of fucking assholes. You know why? You don't have the guts to be who you want to be. You need people like me. You need people like me so you can point the fucking fingers and say, that's the bad guy. So what you make you? Good? You're not good. You just know how to hide, how to lie. Me, I don't have a problem with that. Me, I always tell the truth, even when I lie. So say goodnight to the bad guy. Come on. The last time you're going to see a bad guy like this again, let me tell you, come on. Make way for the bad guy. There's a bad guy coming through. Better get out of his way. Say hello to my little friend.
it's Phil.
Oh my god, I tried hard not to laugh during that, but it was slightly impossible.
It was
Wow.
so weird that when you told me that, because we'd just met. And you lost that
Wasn't it?
Cuban accent. I mean,
Yeah, I know, it went. Do you know what was funny there, though? You sort of, at points, reminded me of George Wenge from the Phone Jacket TV series.
If I could just have your bank account details.
It was
George
great.
Octopus
Thanks for that.
Quango.
I liked it.
I got octopus coming out of my fucking ears. What do you want, a Junior G-Man badge?
Sorry.
He's in the room.
That's a different film. How are you doing, Phil?
I'm good. I'm wonderful. How are you?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I know when you say you're wonderful that you've actually been stressing out for the last 20 to 30 hours, but it's fine.
We've had some technical issues, haven't we?
We have had some technical issues. Watching you have a hissy fit live on Squadcast camera was a lot of fun. I really did enjoy it. Made my day, actually.
Smashed one keyboard up.
Yeah, smashed one keyboard up. So yeah, no. What have you been watching this week? You've been doing much?
Well, recently, so I finished a series on Netflix recently, which was called 1983. It's a Polish series, which is Polish language. It's really interesting though. So it's set in an alternate timeline where the Iron Curtain is still in place, and like people live under a strict communist rule in Poland. But it's got a really cool look about it. It's set in 2003, but it flicks between 1983, hence the title, and 2003. But even in like 2003, it's got this weird 80s Eastern Bloc feel to it. So things are modern, and it's in the modern age. They've got, touchscreen phones and stuff like that, but all the cars that they drive around are like 80s cars still. So it's like it's stuck in time a bit. It's really weird, but it's a really good series. That was good.
It's cool. It's funny because obviously you've got Dark as well, which is you were watching Dark, which is the German Netflix show.
Yeah.
You're now watching a Polish Netflix show. Pretty soon, I think you're going to be watching a Russian Netflix show.
Probably.
It's like you're moving further east.
Yeah.
The beast from the east.
Yeah. Why not? Like a bit of different stuff.
That sounds really interesting.
It was really good. Yeah, it's
A
worth
bit like
watch.
The Man in the High Castle, maybe.
I've not watched that, but
like an alternate present following World War II going the other way.
yeah, it's really weird, but it's interesting to see how they've done it. And they've done it really well, I think. Yeah. So that's good. What else have I watched? I watched a Ken Loach film. I think I told you about this when I watched it. A Ken Loach film from 2002 called Sweet 16. So that's about a teenage boy called Liam. It's set in Scotland, and he's from a really troubled background, and he's got dreams of starting fresh when his mother comes out of prison. It's really depressing, but it's a great film. It's really, really well acted, but it is a depressing film.
The thing that really made me laugh about that is that when you text me that you were watching a Ken Loach film, is that you text me on a Saturday night your time, so knowing that you were sitting down maybe with a nice takeaway or a nice dinner. What should we put on a nice film, love? Yeah, put on a nice film. What should we watch? There's that Ken Loach film, isn't there? Yeah, pop that on. What's it called? Sweet 16. Oh, wonderful. Sounds fun, doesn't it? It sounds like a John Hughes comedy, doesn't it? Let's pop that on. Miles, I just watched a really depressing film. I was like, what did you watch? Ken Loach. I was like, mate, it's Saturday night. What are you doing watching Ken Loach? I watched Step Brothers on a Saturday night. Exactly.
Yeah. Well, it was good anyway. I enjoyed it.
That's cool. That was you. Other than that, review stuff. Yeah. So I got round to a few things. Catching up with WandaVision. So the Disney Plus Marvel show. Obviously, we reviewed it last episode, but I'm not going to go into spoilers. But all I can say, if you remember last episode in my review, I was certainly undecided because I didn't know what this thing was yet.
You were.
I was. And then I saw episode 4, and by the time the Marvel, the kind of typical Marvel intro logo flashes up, I was like, my foot was in my mouth. I was like, this is absolutely incredible. I love it.
Right.
And I think I was lucky. I've heard a lot of people knew that something might be coming because they'd looked at the cast list on IMDb, but I hadn't. I kind of held off from that.
Yeah.
And this was amazing. It was one of those really fun moments where you're like, okay, I'm now starting to see the kind of behind the curtain and what's happening here with these kind of weekly TV sitcoms,
right?
From the days of yore.
Yeah.
Absolutely love it, and I'm so excited for the rest of it and where this is going to take the MCU as well. So,
right.
Yeah, I'm actually getting slight chills just talking about it.
Ooh.
I'd heard a lot of people telling me to watch The Undoing on HBO. The Undoing, starring Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant.
Oh, I saw the trailer for this. Yeah.
Yeah, about a wealthy couple who, through certain actions, are involved in a murder or a potential murder.
Right.
And it was absolutely incredible. I was drawn in. It's only about 7 or 8 episodes, something like that. It's quite dark, but absolutely brilliant. And Nicole Kidman, Hugh Grant, both really, really good in it. It's great to see Hugh Grant in a lot of these roles. He's branching out from the kind of typical rom-coms and, you know, Richard Curtis comedies into much darker material.
Yeah.
And Hugh Grant, fucking brilliant in this. And Nicole Kidman, I have to say, I don't think she's ever been better than in The Undoing. And the really cool thing for me personally is that it's set around my area where I live in New York, which is the Upper East Side.
Yeah.
So they're literally walking around like my street. They're like walking to the Carl Schurz Park, which is on the Upper East Side near me on the river, and like walking around all the locations and stuff. So on one of the days after I finished it, I went for a walk to check out some of the locations that they'd filmed, which was really cool. Such a nerd. And then I've also almost finished Fargo season 4. If you remember, we reviewed that also earlier in the podcast. And it was just taking me. It was taking a lot of effort to kind of watch it and get into it. I have to say it's picked up towards the end. I've almost finished it, and I'm actually looking forward to finishing it now. But it did take its time getting there, and I still don't think it's up there with the best of the Noah Hawley output for Fargo seasons 1 to 3. But it's got something to say, and I've really enjoyed that. And then just finally, I rewatched one of my favorite films last Saturday, in fact, while you were sitting down to get depressed. I watched Wes Anderson's The Royal Tenenbaums.
Oh yeah.
Which is in my top 10 favorite movies of all time. Hadn't seen it in a long time, actually.
Yeah, I've only seen it once.
You've only seen it once. Yeah, found a really good kind of stream of that. Really good high quality, high definition stream of that, and I just fell in love with that film all over again. It's a masterwork. It's absolutely genius, that film. Love it so much, and obviously anything with a dysfunctional family, of course, speaks to me. So, so no, I did really. I had a really good week of watching a lot of decent content. It was really snowy in New York, so I was basically stuck indoors for most of it. So it was good to get on with that. And we've had also a lot of new releases as well to sit down and review. So. Without much further ado, let's jump into the news section.
Yeah.
I think I'll get us started off, Phil, if you don't mind.
Yeah, you've probably got better news than I have, to be fair.
Well, I mean, I'll obviously just hinder on the really sad news of the passing of Christopher Plummer, who died this week, aged 91. So bloody good innings.
Yeah.
But for those of you, probably those of you that would know him best. Would probably be, from The Sound of Music, where he played Captain Von Trapp.
Yep.
In the original, or the Baron Von Trapp, in the adaptation of the play, opposite Julie Andrews, and of course, he's been in so much later. Really kind of owned that elder statesman role. Really well, like a bit like a Max von Sydow, how he kind of moved into those elder statesman roles. Obviously passed away very recently as well. But Christopher Plummer, really, I think the last few years really has put out some amazing films. You could even point to Disney Pixar's Up, that he was absolutely fantastic in, and most recently one of the biggest surprises of 2019 for me was Rian Johnson's Knives Out,
right.
where he starred as the kind of family patriarch of that movie, and really got the plot going in that. And he in so many different things. I mean, even recently, All the Money in the World, the Ridley Scott movie, where following a lot of the furore around Kevin Spacey's, should we say, actions in his private life, was originally playing the lead role. The film got shot, edited, produced, ready to go, and was then replaced by Ridley Scott. And they reshot all of those scenes, and they brought Christopher Plummer in to replace Spacey. And I think he was in his late 80s at this point, and of course he was nominated for an Oscar at that point. So. Real sad news. Not so much of a shock. Obviously, he was old, and but certainly one of those kind of safe, steady pair of hands that I think boosted any movie he was in by at least 20-25%.
Yeah.
And will certainly be missed. And but certainly go back and watch any of those films if you'd like to honour the late great man.
Definitely.
So that was that for me.
Well, in slightly less serious news, I'm afraid. I've got the news that Danny DeVito has come out and said that the Twins 2 script is still in development, even though the sequel was announced in 2012.
Yakety yak!
Don't talk back. So yeah, obviously Twins 2 being the sequel to the 1988 Ivan Reitman comedy featuring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito as
Jules.
twins Vincent and Julia. Did you know that Twins was the 5th highest grossing film of 1988?
I do now.
And that was no small feat, because it had some stiff competition that year with the likes of Die Hard, Big, and Coming to America as well.
Well, what a year that was. We should maybe talk about that year some point on the
Definitely.
podcast.
We should do a 1988 special.
I know that Schwarzenegger holds that movie in such high regard.
He does.
That when he has dignitaries or guests that visit him at his house or his office, he provides them with a small wooden box that contains his 5 favorite movies that he has made. And Twins is one of them. Yeah, for real. Twins is one of them.
Amazing.
And if you read his autobiography that came out maybe 2012, 2013.
Yeah, it's around there.
Yeah, he has basically a whole chapter on Twins.
Wow.
And how he wants to make, with Ivan Reitman, triplets. So with Danny DeVito and Eddie Murphy.
Well, they better get. Yeah. Well, this was. Yeah. See, that's what I'd heard, and I did read that book actually, but a long time ago.
Would you like a box set of my movies?
Yes, please, Mr. Schwarzenegger. So yeah, I mean, that's. I don't know. Am I up for that? Maybe. Probably. Why not? It's Arnie, isn't it? And it's Danny DeVito. Love him. Why not?
Absolutely love him.
I mean, Have you got more news?
No.
I've got probably the best news. No, best is the wrong word. Strangest movie news you'll ever hear in your entire life.
Okay.
Are you ready for this? I don't know any more.
Let me just sit down. Let me just sit down.
So, Mattel Films is reportedly eyeing rapper Lil Yachty. I have no idea who that is. Lil Yachty to star in a live-action hip-hop heist comedy film based on the iconic Uno card game.
Hip-hop heist comedy based on Uno.
Yep. I know
Hip-hop
no
heist.
more details about that. But I thought that was newsworthy.
Well, that sounds... I mean, I thought you said you had more uplifting news. That sounds like the most depressing news I've heard in quite some time.
I want to know how the fuck they're going to do a film based on a card game.
I don't know, but I want to see Lil Hutchie hit someone with that reverse card. Or
Lil
that
Yachty.
+4. Sorry, Lil Yachie.
I have no idea.
Or with that +4, you know.
He's like, you fucking +4 me, I got to pick up 4.
You +4 me, I gotta go rob this bank now.
I need more. Yeah. And then this brings me on to, should we tell the listeners our Uno related story?
I tell you what, if anyone's going to tell it, it should be you.
No, you should. You tell a story way better.
So, I mean, it has nothing to do with film. And although now that Lil Yachty has brought Uno kicking and screaming into the film universe, we can actually talk about it on the podcast.
It's related.
Phil and I once gingerly and excitedly bought 2 Xbox 360 webcams.
This is like 2007.
And we used to play a lot
wasn't
on.
it?
Yeah, and we used to play a lot online, and it came with a free Uno card game that you could play online, and you could see each other while you were playing Uno. I don't know why that was so important to see each other while you're playing Uno.
Very exciting.
But it was. Yeah, and you would sit there and you would just play, and you would see a little, little picture, a little video of your friend playing Uno, and you could throw up 4 fingers when you're about to hit them with a +4, or throw up the 1 finger when you're going to Uno them, or throw up the middle finger when someone's beaten you. And we were sitting there playing. We had another friend online, the 3 of us, and there was a spare slot, and strangers could join at any moment. And this one time that we were playing, somebody joined and threw down a card, and then all of a sudden we saw their video, and the video was of what can only be described as if we speak in emoji terms, a deflating eggplant, which I don't know. It was just it had been recently used. Let's put it that way, and was the most horrific thing. Phil and I were so excited to be playing this game, and the fact that we could see each other on a webcam over the internet, and to see this thing, it basically, it was like a Black Mirror episode. It was like, oh, this is where we are now.
This is it. This is our life.
This is it now. Yeah,
this is technology.
And since then, the dick pic has taken off, hasn't it? I mean, maybe he was the inventor. I don't know.
I don't know if we ever played that again after that.
I don't think we did. I haven't even. Honestly, if I see Uno in a toy shop or something, I have to just turn and move.
You feel a bit sick.
Or throw them all on the floor and
you
run
feel
away.
a bit physically sick.
Yeah,
You want to run away.
Or eggplants or carrots or sausages, anything that might resemble a man's phallus. So thanks for bringing that one back, Phil.
That's all
I've
right.
got one other piece of news.
Oh yeah.
And that is that Black Panther mastermind Ryan Coogler, obviously also behind the likes of Fruitvale Station, and obviously Creed, is bringing a Wakanda series to Disney Plus for Marvel. So Obviously, Wakanda, the home place of Black Panther. Obviously, the late great Chadwick Boseman was in that role in the MCU, and so they're going to be fleshing that out. And he's actually contracted for at least the next 5 years to be bringing this series to Disney Plus. So absolutely awesome. And off the back of watching WandaVision, I went back and watched Avengers: Age of Ultron. There are a lot of links to that because, of course, it's where we first find Vision and Wanda, or Scarlet Witch. And it's actually amazing going back that far to see the links to the MCU where it is now after Endgame, and the fact that you have references to Wakanda. There's a scene where, I can't remember which one of the Avengers it was, but gets the name wrong for Wakandan and says Wakandian, Wakanda, and someone goes, "Oh, Wakanda," and then that's the first time it's really been mentioned in the MCU. And of course, 5 to 7 years later, Black Panther comes out. So it's just really cool, like really cool little links. So I'm really excited for this. I think it could be really interesting, and I'm also really excited to see where they take Black Panther beyond obviously the late great Chadwick Boseman and where they move this. But we shall see. We'll keep a close eye on that one. I'm loving some of the output currently that's coming to Disney Plus. I have to say they've really upped their game. So that was it in the news. I think there's just, for me, there's one trailer to talk about. I think you may want to talk about this because I think you had more of an excited reaction than I did, and not an Uno type reaction, but I was. This was the new trailer from HBO Warner Brothers, Godzilla versus King Kong, which looks pretty fun, Phil.
It does. So it's the next chapter in the cinematic monsterverse, isn't it?
It really is. Is that what it's called? The cinematic monsterverse?
It is now. So this is, it is what it says. It's Godzilla versus King Kong. And it looks like it could be really cool, but also really, really terrible. But it's got so it stars Alexander Skarsgård in the lead, I think, who you may know from TV. It's True Blood. He was in, but
he's in The Stand currently, isn't he?
Yeah, and he was in. Wasn't he in like the film version of Battleship or whatever it was, which was terrible. They did a film of the
possibly.
game Battleship. There we go, another one based on a game.
Hasbro's Battleship.
B1 to C5.
Was there a scene in that film where they did that? Was there a scene in the film where they did that? Coordinates B1.
It was something like that. I don't know.
I reckon there was. I remember Rihanna was in it.
Yeah, that's right. God, I've wiped that from memory, that film. But still, anyway, he's in it. And do you know what? I've got to admit, I got pretty excited watching it because I thought, oh no, here we go. And I did watch the last sort of Kong film and Godzilla film, the Bryan Cranston Godzilla film, remember?
I actually really like that.
I thought it was good. Yeah, it was really good.
I saw it in the IMAX, BFI IMAX, and I loved it. The spectacle was amazing.
Good. I love like monster sort of disaster films, but this looks like it's got some absolutely amazing special effects in it. Yeah, there's some real good sort of set piece, and it's just in the trailer there's this scene where the sort of music builds up and you see Kong on a ship and then Godzilla's in the ocean and he's sort of flying towards the ship, and then the music builds up and then it goes all slow motion and you see Kong like fly up and give Godzilla a smack round the chops. The music kicks off and it's like, yes, it looks brilliant. And then they cut to some really cool looking scenes in I don't know where it's based, but it's like a neon sort of city. It looks, like Tokyo or somewhere like that, and it just looks awesome. It just there's some real sort of work gone into the special effects, I think. So that could be good.
It reminded me of this trailer. It reminded me a lot of the first trailer for Pacific Rim.
I knew you were going to say that, and
when he picks up the oil tanker and he's about to swing it like a baseball bat.
Yeah, and there's a little bit of a scene in that, like, where it's very similar to that. But then there was a tweet from I think people got excited because Guillermo del Toro, who we know directed the first Pacific Rim, which again I really enjoyed, just his style of stuff like that, and he got people very excited because he was like, oh, wouldn't it be great to see like Pacific Rim and the Godzilla and Kong universe sort of put together.
Yeah, because it's also Warner Brothers as well, isn't it?
Yeah, but then he did tweet after that and say he's not involved in anything like this. That's just as a fan, he'd love to see it, but he's not. There's nothing going on there, sort of thing.
No,
So yeah,
I mean,
interesting.
I'm excited about this. I think because of the director Adam Wingard, who's come from kind of a horror background.
Yeah,
and
one of Blair Witch, wasn't it?
Yeah, he did the remake of the
yeah.
Blair Witch, to be fair. But one of the films I really liked was The Guest, starring Dan Stevens.
Right.
Which was really, I really enjoyed that. And so I think he's a really good director. Interesting to see how if he can tackle this kind of scale. I must admit, I didn't see the last Godzilla King of the Monsters movie, which also had Kyle Chandler and Millie Bobby Brown, who were going to be in this as well.
Yeah. I didn't see that. I didn't know she was in. I didn't know that. Okay, right.
Yeah. No. So, interested to see. I may now go back. But what I would say about this, and I don't want to spend too much time on it, but it does have a lot of buzz around it on social media. There's a lot of memes. There's a lot of commentary about this. People are actually excited about it. Which, to be honest, when you look at Kong Skull Island, it was a great trailer. Film execution, unfortunately, not so great. I don't think personally. Obviously, the last Godzilla movie didn't do too well, although it did very well at the international box office. I'd say the one thing I would say about this, the real shame about this, is, as I just mentioned, I saw that original Godzilla remake in the BFI IMAX, and it was a spectacle.
Yeah.
This is being released by Warner Brothers, HBO Max, tangentially in both theaters, cinemas around the world, and also on HBO Max to stream at home on the same day.
Yeah.
And I just don't think that this is the kind of movie that you should be sitting in a cinema with people around you, shouting at the screen, freaking out, throwing popcorn, having fun on a Saturday night, than sitting at home with, on a smaller screen, maybe with lesser visuals, lesser sound, and 50% of the impact that it should really be giving you.
Yeah.
This is a popcorn movie. It's a blockbuster.
They're made for cinema, these, aren't they? For loud, big screens.
They are. I mean, the only thing I would say about it is, obviously, I live in New York. New York cinemas haven't been open in almost a year. I haven't been able to go to the cinema in a year. Same in Los Angeles, they're closed. You can't go. The only way you can do it is if you actually hire a cinema, which is an option that you can do at the moment. And you and your friends just go up to 100 people or whatever, up to 10 people or whatever it is.
Right.
So it's giving people the chance to watch it. But should they wait? Should they hold off? I will miss that cinema experience. I'm not going to get the chance to see it, perhaps.
Yeah.
So
maybe you'll see a spate of things being put on again, after the when things get back a bit to normal. Maybe they'll do some re-releases of stuff that came out recently, so to give that sort of opportunity, even if it's limited time release or something.
They definitely will, but it's going to be too late because I'm going to need to watch it for this.
I'm going to
need to watch it because I can see it.
Yeah.
And it's not really about that. It's about the dangers for me of Warner Brothers making this movie. It's about the dangers of pushing people to home releases at the time of release and away from the cinematic experience. And we look at what's been happening with AMC here, big cinema chain, that owns Odeon in the UK, for example. They've been, struggling, on the brink of bankruptcy for the last 12 months. And, this whole Robin Hood piece, people have been funding them and trying to get them back in, into profit and so on.
Yeah.
On that share price piece, which is fine, but this is going to set a precedent, and we look at Paramount, and we look at with the likes of CBS, All Access, and you look at Disney with Hulu and Disney Plus, and all the other big studios. And I just worry that this is now going to set that precedent, and people are going to start expecting content at home, and that experience that. The reason that we do this podcast, let's face it, is because we've both had experiences where, when we were kids or growing up, going to a movie theater and watching a film. And, I've got stuff that I watched on video that I still hold, I enjoy. But that theater experience is why I love movies so much. So let's hope it doesn't change that.
Yes.
Forward.
Well, we went from Godzilla versus Kong and... All right, Mars.
We will not vanish into the night. We're going to live on. Today we celebrate our Independence Day.
I've got one more trailer. I've got one more trailer to talk about.
Oh, go on.
So
I love your surprise trailers. I love these. Go on.
Oh, but this is like a good one, not a shit film. I could have talked about a shit film.
Is it starring Mel Gibson by any chance?
Not this time. Surprise. This is the new Benedict Cumberbatch film, The Courier, which is out on March 19th. And this is based on a true story about a British businessman who helped the MI6 penetrate the Soviet nuclear program during the Cold War.
Yep.
So I'm quite excited about this from the trailer. It looks like it could be a real winner, and it looks like a sort of real James Bond, if you get what I mean. I don't know if you've seen this trailer, but
yeah, I have. Yeah,
and there's even like the little joke, like they give him like I think it's like a tie clip. They said you must wear this, just a little snippet scene. You've got to wear this when you're over there, and he's like, well, does it shoot out poison gas or something as a joke, But it looks really good. It looks it looks really good. Quite excited about that. So
yeah, it's got obviously it's based on a true story.
Yeah,
but it's got shades of John le Carré type movie. Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy.
Yeah,
it looks like that.
It's got that kind of feel. It's 1960s. That is set. So obviously Cold War.
Yeah, I'm all for this. I think it looks great. It looks like a decent, dark, Cold War / 1960s set.
Tense. It looks tense.
Tense spy thriller.
Yeah.
Adult spy thriller.
He's like a he's a spy, but he's not meant to be a spy. He's just
they say that he was a British agent that was in part responsible for averting the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Yeah, that's right.
Between Khrushchev and John F. Kennedy. So there's a bit, obviously it's going to have, there's going to be an element of bringing that to today's modern world where we've been on the brink of annihilation for the last 4 years.
Yeah.
But yeah, exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Really exciting stuff.
March 19th, that one.
And sorry, what was it called? The Courier.
The Courier, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Tinker Tailor Soldier Courier. Okay. Sounds good. All right. Well, I think with that, we'll jump into the review section. So I'm going to get us kicked off, Phil, if that's quite all right with you.
You go for it, mate.
Do you mind?
No, you go for it. Go on. After
Thank
you.
Awfully.
Age before beauty.
Well, thank you so much. A real gentleman. Despite what everyone says about you behind your back. So this is Malcolm and Marie. Netflix bringing us a slice of global pandemic produced content this week, and this is with a kind of stage-like powerhouse performance from both John David Washington and Zendaya. Firstly, I'll give you the skinny. So this was produced during the global pandemic and lockdown of 2020 with just a 22-person crew. However, not as far as we can tell, is it set during the pandemic. Which means it doesn't drag us kicking and screaming back to the family Zoom call / pots and pans banging mind fuckery of last year, as we saw in HBO's similar in execution, different in concept, two-hander, Locked Down, starring Chiwetel Ejiofor and Anne Hathaway that I spoke about last week, directed by Doug Liman. So this follows the title characters of Malcolm, played by John David Washington, and Marie, a former drug addict, and Malcolm being a current film director. So they return to their modern Malibu home following a night at the screening of Malcolm's new passion project movie. Their relationship gets brought under a close-up microscope due to Malcolm's inability to thank Marie in his audience address after the film, much to the derision and realization from Marie that the movie appears to be based on her own struggles and addiction in her life. So following on from your review of Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, ironically also produced by John David Washington's father, Denzel, we've got another slice of at-home theatre. However, this comes with a wholly original script, and it's not an adaptation from the stage. No. It just feels like a theatre production.
It really does, yeah.
So let's start with the script. So this reminded me of the type of Pater and Aaron Sorkin script would deliver. All barbed, unafraid to shock, also rooted in the filmmaking world. Malcolm and Marie are taking it in turns to unleash a rapier of missiles at each other as they attempt to win a tennis match of an argument over the course of one night. Really interesting, actually, how it goes from one side to the other. They never interrupt each other. They just let the other one
it's
monologue,
like
don't they?
a wall of it's really good.
Yeah, and it's also rooted in a deep relevance to our times, with references to civil rights, self-aggrandizement, and even a long discussion on dear old Karen herself, here portrayed in anecdote-only form by an unnamed LA Times critic, finally giving Malcolm a glowing review due to her self-wokeness. Malcolm becoming upset with the fact that he's finally received a positive review for the wrong reasons. I went into this only having a very limited kind of window into the two. And don't get me wrong, we never leave these two, do we? They're always on screen.
Yep.
There are no other actors in the cast. It's just these two. Zendaya had seen in Marvel Spider-Man films, but here she shows more of the emotional depth and range seen in HBO's Euphoria. She starts out kind of cold and reserved, and I wasn't at the start necessarily convinced that she could kind of stand up to this kind of content, this kind of depth in terms of script. But as the proverbial literal midnight pasta boils, so does her temper, and finally she ends up unleashing and sustaining an incredible and well-balanced performance between rage, deflation, and coldness. For me, though, it's John David who really surprised me. So I'd seen him in HBO's Ballers, which didn't give him anything to do. His performance in Chris Nolan's mind-twisting, or should that be mind-reversing, Tenet left me really cold, and my ignorance is now fully shook by this performance. The range, emotional depth, and even physicality of his Malcolm is among the best performances I've seen on a streaming platform, and it's here where the real pity lay for me. This could and should be a Broadway smash. To see these two tearing up the stage and each other on Broadway would have been a sight to behold. I'm almost disappointed that as the Academy will view this as a breezy, camera-whirling production with little to say on the important topics, they usually prefer to award Oscars to those types of movies, that these performances may be wasted. But I am really, really looking forward to seeing more of these two, especially as the jury was out on me on John David's Tenet antagonist performance. I felt like he doesn't do well when he has to play kind of cold, reserved. I think he needs more of these physical performances, scenes where he's dancing and running and leaping and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely brilliant.
Yeah.
I've just other final notes from me, and I'll let you chime in as well. This film it's filmed in a kind of black and white stock, which makes it easy on the eye, and it's not just a coincidence considering the long monologues about Billy Wilder, Citizen Kane, and Hollywood's golden era. That it takes so many referential points from. It also has an amazing soundtrack that I'm going to have blaring on my Spotify this week. So that's kind of really where I kind of sat on it. What were your thoughts?
Well, I just want to say, I think that's not how you judge film intelligently, by the 600 trillion different choices not made due to the intangible yet purely hypothetical assessment of one's identity, but rather the choices actually being fucking made. No, that was a line that was in it, and it was fucking brilliant. I love that line. Yeah. No, I think
so many great lines in this one.
So many, and
yeah,
I agree. Just amazing work from both actors in this. It's the kind of film where there's long speeches, really long ones with no cuts. It's like full. There's I think at the beginning, like one I noticed, it's quite early on. There's probably a good sort of 5-10 minute scene where there was no cuts, and this just makes you appreciate the talent that have given this kind of performance. Like to memorize the rant, as you were saying, the rant he goes on about that positive review that he gets. Like he is going off on one, isn't he? Outside, he's sort of pacing in and out of the house.
He actually collapses.
Yeah, he collapses at the end of it, basically. Yeah, and it's just incredible. Like to be able to memorize lines like that, and there's some real sort of technical speech in this. It's not, it's not just straight. It's really, really good. The performances are fantastic in it. I'll never look at someone eating macaroni cheese in the same way as he does either. As well. He's like a caged
I love
animal.
that scene.
Yeah,
Yeah. And then he goes back for more.
yeah. It's really good. I probably should have watched. I watched I watched Spies Like Us, and then I watched this. I sort of wish I did it the other way around.
I chose to watch it the other way around. I
Yeah.
watched this on a plane, in fact.
Wow,
And
yeah.
there is some scenes of like kind of partial nudity, and the two people sitting next to me were having a field day watching me watch this.
Yeah, but do you know what?
They,
I
they
thought
kept
that
looking at
might
my
have
screen, and we were
happened.
like
Yeah.
looking at each other laughing.
Yeah, it's interesting as well because obviously, no doubt, if you watched that on the plane, you watched it on your own. But I watched this with my wife.
Did you have a massive argument after?
I went,
Why don't you ever thank me,
I was
Phil?
like, why aren't you making me macaroni and cheese?
As I said, I don't think this will be for everyone, especially those of you who, as we just said, you might find that the stuck in one building together vitriolic arguments a little bit too close to home at the moment. If you've been, holed up with somebody for the last year. But for movie lovers, fans of the craft, fans of the theatre, or those with more than just positive things to say about relationships, I wholly recommend Malcolm and Marie. I don't think it's an outright masterpiece. I probably won't watch it again. I can't imagine. But I do think it's worth a watch if you like your films dialogue heavy. So I wholly recommend it. I'm off to smoke a fictional cigarette and drink a glass of whiskey while staring into the dark and contemplating the toxicity that we saw in this film. Recommended.
Yeah.
So Malcolm and Marie is available on Netflix everywhere right now. Philip,
Yes.
do you dig?
I dig. So I watched the new. It's also Netflix as well. Actually, it was and released recently. The Dig, starring Ralph Fiennes. So it's a new.
You're the only person I've ever met that calls him Ralph Fiennes and not Rafe Fiennes.
Oh, Ralph, King Ralph Fiennes, Ralph, whatever.
It's Fiennes. It's Fiennes. Carry on.
It's fine. So yeah, it's the new drama, and it's based on the 2007 novel of the same name by John Preston, which reimagines the events around the famous 1939 archaeological excavation and discovery of an Anglo-Saxon burial ship in Sutton Hoo, which is in Suffolk in England, for those not sure, as I wasn't. But yeah, it's in Suffolk. So Ralph Fiennes, he plays Basil Brown. He's like a pipe-smoking, self-assured, he's a man of few words, and he's a self-taught working-class excavator, and not archaeologist, as he refers to himself throughout the film as an excavator. And he's been hired by the recently widowed local landowner Edith Pretty, and she's played by Kerry Mulligan, to investigate the apparent burial mounds located on her property. So it all sort of, seems to be going well. He begins to make some really cool discoveries when he starts digging into the soil, and much to the joy of Mrs. Pretty. However, the excitement of the occasion is dampened somewhat when news of the discovery spreads and the bigwigs from London turn up to take authority of the dig and the credit that comes along with it. Ken Stott is in this, and he turns up, and he plays the annoyingly pompous British museum archaeologist that comes to take over everything, and he's really good in it in that role. I really like Ken Stott. I think he's great. So aside from the main story of the significant historic findings, and it's all set against the backdrop of the eve of the Second World War is when it's happening. We see the struggle of Mrs. Pretty against her serious illness and the ongoing battle for Basil Brown to be accepted as a professional in his field. The film, it's also got some other subplots going on, mainly set out in the second act of the film, and they're well played throughout. But I don't really want to go into those so much because I think then I'd be verging on sort of spoiler territory for this. A lot of people are going to go into this knowing about the excavation and the famous finds and things like that. It's very well documented. But yeah, there's some other stuff that they've introduced to it, which I'm not going to go into, but it's well worth a watch. One thing I did find quite interesting, though, was that the choice to cast Mrs. Pretty as a younger actress. In real life, she was 56 during the time of the events that were happening. However, like they've knocked around 20 years off her character, I think. And that and it jars.
Could have been a nice Kate Winslet role.
Absolutely, yeah. I
mean,
know what I mean? But what's weird is it jars because the script has them toying with the idea of a bit of a love story that could potentially kick off between Basil Brown and Mrs. Pretty.
Yeah,
and it would have felt more natural if they were the same age.
But this is such a, and funny enough, it's something I was thinking about yesterday on the plane. How in this, as you say, there's such a big age gap. The same with Malcolm and Marie. There's an over 10-year age gap with John David and Zendaya.
Yeah,
and it just Hollywood and filmmaking, for whatever reason, is so deeply invested in the trope of older man, younger woman.
Yeah,
and we'll even get to Spies Like Us to talk about this, but
God, yeah.
It's just in everything, and it has been in everything for so long, and I just feel like they could just true up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't get it, especially when it's a film like this that's based on actual events. Like, it's just weird because she's got like a son as well in the film, and he's he's right, because in history, her son was sort of, I think, 9 or 10 at the time of them making the discovery, and so she was 46 when she had her son, so she's 56 during the actual events. But again, in this, I know the actress that plays her was who did I say, Carey Mulligan. She was born in 85, so she's around our age. She's 35, 36, and it's just like, why do that? Because it would have been a very similar age to what Ralph Fiennes is now. I'm guessing he is around that sort of age, 60, late 50s.
Yeah, she's married to the lead singer of Mumford and Sons.
Oh, is she? Right, okay.
Yeah. Just quick Carey Mulligan aside. I once saw her in a play. Speaking of this,
and
it's the same with theatre. I saw her in a play with Bill Nighy.
Yeah, brilliant.
Where there was a romance called Skylight. In Through the Skylight. And I just want to say this out there, because this was the most wicked thing I've seen. One of the most wicked things I've seen in the cinema in the West End in London.
Yeah.
And she cooked a spaghetti bolognese live on stage.
Wow.
During the play, every night, like every performance that she did, and she was chopping the onions and frying them, and then you could smell them.
Oh, tasty.
It was crazy, and then she served it up, and they ate it.
Should have given it to the audience.
Yeah, I wish. Went for an Italian afterwards.
Yeah, well, that's cool. But yeah, so anyway, that's as an aside, I think that was a bit of a slightly odd choice, but overall, I think it was a brilliantly acted film. It's got a fantastic cast, everyone in it. There's no bad turns in this. It's really good, but Ralph Fiennes is on top form, definitely, for this. He's such a brilliant actor, and he does really well in this. So it's well worth a watch, and also an interesting read if you look up the real events that it was based on as well. The find is absolutely phenomenal, and you can go and see the things they found in the British Museum when it's back open, I guess.
One of the few things in the British Museum that is actually British.
Yeah, right, yeah. Everything else bought from Egypt or wherever.
Yeah.
But yeah, so well worth a watch for me. And it's available to stream on Netflix now.
Great stuff. Great. That's one I haven't seen yet, but I'm definitely excited to watch it. I was actually wanting to watch it after your comments, and I know that we share me, myself, you, your other half, all share a love for all things archaeology. So
that's right.
I'm definitely interested in watching that. So on Netflix now. And finally, closing out the review section, or our Denzel Washington based review section, is The Little Things, Warner Brothers HBO Max, one of these straight to home / straight to the theater releases.
Right.
The Little Things, obviously starring Denzel Washington as Deke, a burnt out Kern County, California deputy sheriff who teams up with Baxter, played by Rami Malek, recently seen as Freddie Mercury in the Bohemian Rhapsody movie, who here plays a crack LAPD detective, and they want to nab a serial killer who has been laying waste to young women across California. Deke's nose for the little things proves eerily accurate, but his willingness to circumvent the rules embroils Baxter, a kind of clean-cut detective, into a soul-shattering dilemma. And meanwhile, Deke also is wrestling with some ghosts from the past when he used to be a crack LAPD detective, like Baxter. This is directed by John Lee Hancock, who listeners will remember directed The Blind Side, directed Saving Mr. Banks, The Founder, The Highwaymen. So he has real form in kind of period set, and this is set firmly in 1990. Everything in this looks great. It's all 1990s based, all 1990s set. And you have all the old kind of 1990s cars and donut eating cops and all that kind of thing. So I really liked the setting of this. Those of you that have seen the trailer, this doesn't offer a spoiler, but obviously Jared Leto is in there as a potential suspect, and we see him in the trailer, being interviewed. Basically, this performance of his is one of the most cartoonish comic book type performances of his, and I include the fact that he played the Joker in Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
it's so unusual and so different in tone to the rest of the film. Like he kind of the film is very dark and and kind of meandering and crime scene investigations and sitting in diners having conversations over hot coffee, kind of quasi Michael Mann type territory. Very Zodiac, as well. I would say David Fincher's Zodiac, very on in the same kind of tone to that. And then Jared Leto wanders into this film and chews up every single piece of scenery as this kind of wisecracking potential perpetrator called Albert Sparmer.
good name.
And he's got these kind of weird contact lenses in that make his eyes brown, but like kind of black, kind of dead. He's got like a kind of fake nose on. The performance reminded me of Tom Cruise in Tropic Thunder.
Right, okay.
If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything that Denzel or Rami throw at him in the interview room, for example, he throws back some kind of quip. They give him some crime scene photos and he's flicking through them and he's like, oh, the contrast is all out on this one. It's just like...
Right.
It's so weird. And without any spoilers, it wraps it up in a very unusual way. It lost me at the end. It lost me within that last ending kind of scene. It kind of goes for Fincher, but it comes out, kind of Tropic Thunder levels of stupidity.
Right.
And it doesn't quite hit the mark for me. This is a film that I only really heard about 4 weeks ago, having seen the trailer on the IMDb app.
Right, okay.
It wasn't one that I was excited for gestating, and building up to, which is amazing considering the Oscar level actors that you have in here.
Yeah.
Alongside all of this, from a female cast perspective, pretty much every female player in this is sidelined. This is very much, a testosterone-fueled movie. Some of the dialogue is ridiculous. And, sometimes that kind of testosterone-level dialogue could be carried off by the likes of a De Niro, a Pacino, a Gyllenhaal even, as seen in Zodiac. But here, with these three, it just doesn't hit home. Rami Malek, I feel like, maybe miscast in this. Denzel Washington obviously put on a lot of weight for this. He's got a really dumpy kind of physique in this. Not to body shame him, but it's just a very, very, very strange film. That being said, there's a lot to like about it for a throwaway, crime thriller. It looks magnificent. It's filmed really, really well. It's got a nice score by Thomas Newman, from who's done a lot of the There are a lot of great movies, from the likes of American Beauty to some of the latest Bond films. So worth sitting down, worth a watch on a Sunday afternoon. Not for me, unfortunately, a high recommendation, but it's worth a couple of hours to sit down and watch.
And where can they see that?
So they can see that on HBO Max, or in cinemas right now. So depending on where you are, I believe in Europe HBO Max isn't currently available. No. But they may be tying up certain agreements with the likes of Sky Broadcasting or Amazon Prime. So you might be able to stream this or watch it on one of those. But if you are living in a region where you have cinemas that are open, then you can pay for a ticket and go and watch this right now.
Sounds good. Oh, actually, on that note, because I just asked you where it's here, it might be worth you mentioning the app that you recommended to me, which I did use yesterday.
Yes. So this is... been a bit of an issue during quarantine, especially with all of these new streaming apps. So I currently subscribe to Hulu, Disney Plus, Netflix, Amazon Prime, CBS All Access, Peacock, and maybe some more. You basically have to go through each of these to find the movie that you want to watch. Someone recommends something, you have to look into each one individually. There's a new app that you can download on your app store, whether it's Android or Apple, called Just Watch. So Just Watch, just type that into your app store and it will find for you the movie that you want. You just type in, Spies Like Us, for example. I typed it in and it pulled up HBO Max, and there it was, available to stream. And I could open it directly from the film, directly from within Just Watch, and it would open up the HBO Max platform. It also tells you where you can rent or buy.
Yeah.
So it also gives you that option to buy on Amazon, for example, or Apple, for example, Apple TV Plus, which is another one I didn't mention that I also have. It's really made things convenient for me, especially when looking up certain things to watch for Video Store Corner or to review.
I used it last night for Spies Like Us.
Did you?
I put Spies Like Us in because it wasn't available on anything else, and I saw that you could rent it on Amazon Prime Video, so I rented it from Prime Video. You could rent it from it tells you Prime Video, YouTube, or Google Movies or whatever. That was over here. So it's good for your location as well. I think no matter where you are, it'll tell you where it's available.
Yeah. So I've been using it in the US. You've been using it in the UK. We're not sponsored by Just Watch.
If they want to get in touch.
It's just but it's just been an efficiency that's really made our lives a lot easier and a lot more practical to find things to watch. So Just Watch, worth a download. All right. Enough of the fake promotion that we just did. And time for this. Welcome to Video Store Corner. This week we have a comedy, finally, after all the heady drama of the review section. Phil, open the doors, take a look around, breathe in that smell of that nice, warm, rewinding hardware and video playing technology.
I just trod in some bubble gum.
Please do. You've got some bubble gum,
I just trod in some on the floor.
Oh, it's classic. I was supposed to get that off the carpet. What would you like to rent this week, Phil? Please do tell our listeners.
Could I have, please, this 1985 comedy starring Chevy Chase and Dan Ackroyd? It's Spies Like Us.
Here we go. So, do you want to give us the plot summary of this film?
Okay.
Because I'll be honest, I hadn't seen this. You've
never seen it?
I'd never seen it.
Oh, my word. Okay.
Luckily, I've watched it now, so we can talk about it. But I'd never seen this. So it's Spies Like Us, starring Chevy Chase, Dan Ackroyd. Please give us the plot summary of this.
So, looking for a way out of their mundane government jobs, Austin Milbarge, Dan Ackroyd, and Emmett Fitzhume, Chevy Chase, take the entrance exam for a CIA espionage program. Immediately chosen to take part in a top-secret mission in the Middle East by the officious General Sline, played by Steve Forrest, the new recruits are set upon by Soviet forces in Afghanistan. Soon it becomes clear that the hapless pair are being used as decoys to expose the Russians for a Cold War nuclear showdown.
It's very 80s.
It's well 80s, yeah. 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 I mean,
let's talk a little bit about the characters. So you've got Chevy Chase. We first see Chevy Chase as Emmett Fitzhume. These two are basically patsies. They have no idea what they're doing. They get roped into this thing because the U.S. government want to exploit them in order to conduct, to basically set off a nuclear war with Russia. Typical 1980s American U.S. plot.
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, it's the Russians.
We first see, Russians. So we first see Emmett Fitzhume, Chevy Chase. He's sitting in a CIA office somewhere, with his feet up on the desk, with his Walkman headphones on, watching a musical for some reason, and absolutely loving it. And finding out that he's supposed to be studying for a test. Obviously, he'd completely forgotten, or he didn't realize, or he didn't really care. And he just assuredly said that he would pass the test. It doesn't matter, even if the test was tomorrow morning. So he's kind of this, arrogant, egotistical, chaotic, woman-obsessed, madman, basically. I mean, he's completely insane. And then you've got Austin Milbarge, who is Dan Ackroyd, and we first see him. He's working in a what appears to be a boiler room, in a subterraneous boiler room, putting together research and data for a random military officer, basically the bitch of this military officer. And Ackroyd he's much more studious, much more intelligent, and certainly more hands-on, but he's no kind of world awareness, does he? He's not really, aware of how things work. No. He's not really good at forming, relationships with women, and he's kind of the opposite side of the coin to Chevy Chase's character. Yeah. And it's basically Dumb and Dumber become Spies.
Yeah.
Would you say? Although they both have a level of, one has a level of social intelligence, the other one has a level of technical intelligence. So tell me, Phil, which one would you say that you are?
Look, listen now. When I watch this, this film is starring me and you, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
I am sad to admit, 100% Austin Milbarge, Dan Ackroyd.
You are. Dan Ackroyd.
My day job, I actually work in a basement, fixing things. It's true.
As soon as I saw the basement, and I knew it was going to be the introduction to Dan Aykroyd's character, as soon as I saw that, I went, "Yeah." So
this is documentary about Phil.
Yeah. At every point, Chevy Chase is he's on mission, and then he's distracted by basically wanting
female
to communicate with a woman. Any female, yeah.
That's it. He's lost forever. Well, basically, it's about me and you. You're permanently distracted by women while I sort out the technical aspects and keep us alive.
I wish I was Chevy Chase. Actually, maybe not. Chevy Chase is a fucking
not
asshole.
now. Yeah, he's a dick.
Yeah, but
he's great in this.
But no, I definitely if you just wanted to characterize us, you could characterize us like these two clowns, couldn't you?
If we starred in a 1980s action comedy, it would be this.
It would.
And we wouldn't have to do much to acting.
Oh, let's change the podcast to called Spies Like Us.
Pods Like Us.
So, yeah.
Wow.
Sorry, you were saying something.
No. Yeah. No, I just got to agree with you. I think it's just it's not. There's a lot of good stuff in this, but it's not the best film, is it? It's not the best 80s comedy.
It's got the driest opening to a comedy movie I think I've ever seen. A random man in kind of a meatpacking district gets a suitcase strapped to his wrist, and he's walking down the street for about 5 minutes while the camera
follows the van that he gets into for far too long. Like the credits are rolling over that, but it's like the longest. It's like, what's going on? Have I missed something? Have I missed someone else getting the van? No, it's just driving off.
And it's not until he arrives at this office, this kind of spy desk, and he arrives at this office, and these two gentlemen meet him who become kind of our main kind of antagonists of sorts. And they they're American agents, and they make they make this guy that's delivering this courier that's delivering this briefcase get into a closet.
Yeah, because it's attached to his wrist, isn't it? And he hasn't got
It's
the
attached
key.
to his wrist. They don't want him to see him open. They don't want to see him to see what's inside the case when they open it, and they can't get it off his wrist. So he climbs in this closet, but just his eyes as he looks out of the closet as they shut the door. That was the part that made me laugh.
Yeah.
Very subtle.
Yeah.
It starts very, very subtly, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And then upon I think upon introduction to Chevy and Dan, that's when things really kick off. And the first time they actually meet is during the test, isn't it? When they've got to sit this test, and basically the CIA have said whoever gets the worst test results, will throw them into Russia as a distraction. There'll be a pair of bumbling idiots. They'll create a load of noise. The Russians will go out. The KGB will go after them, and the real two spies that are there to create their own, finish their own mission. The spotlight won't be on them, and they'll be able to, conduct their mission basically in silence. So Dan Ackroyd goes into this room. He sits down in basically a classroom, and not fairly normally, and then Chevy Chase walks in with an eye patch and an arm, and his arm, what you think is his arm, in a sling.
Yeah.
And a cast, and then proceeds to basically tear the classroom apart, doesn't he? I mean,
Yeah, he just goes off on some, he's got like answers written inside his eye patch, so he's like pulling that off and like looking at inside the eye patch for the answers, and then he's got like this piece of paper that's really long that he pulls out of his mouth, and he's reading the answers off the paper. It's ridiculous, but it's quite funny.
It did make me think that his physical comedy at this point in his career was unparalleled.
Yeah.
Like there was no one like he, if this script you could have easily have had I don't know, Bill Murray in this
That's
role.
what Carly said. My wife, she said Bill Murray could have been in this.
Yeah, I think you could have had Bill Murray in this role. However, Bill Murray wouldn't have had that level of physical comedy that, for me, notched this up slightly higher in terms of laughs than I think if it had just been, two fairly dry comedians. And I did love a lot of the scenes with him. Dan Ackroyd, I also liked his kind of will to get things done.
Yeah.
I really liked, like, he had the will to get things done, and Chevy Chase is just like running amok, basically, isn't he?
I quite like the way that Dan, like, he just surprises you with his knowledge, like, straight away. Like, he actually makes quite a good agent by the end of it. Like, he knows when
he translates Russian.
Yeah, when they get picked up by those two guys that they think are their contacts, and he notices like his wristwatch that's like a copy of it, and he's like, these are Russians. These are like.
Can I just say I noticed that?
Did you?
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. So there's a lot of good scenes in it, though. Like, what would you say is your favourite scene in this?
I liked the. There's a couple of standout moments. I think I like the surgery scene where they pretend to be doctors. They arrive in basically a Taliban camp in Pakistan, and there's Afghani freedom fighters basically who became the Taliban. And at this time, they were fighting on the side of the US, or the US were fighting on their side and against the Russians. And these Afghanis, anyway, they capture these two idiots. And they take them to a camp, and there's a tent full of kind of Western doctors there.
UN, aren't they? UN doctors.
UN doctors, yeah. And they kind of bring them in, and they pretend to be these two world famous doctors, classic trope. And the warlord chief's son, is having an inflamed appendix, so they get asked to go and do the surgery, and obviously it doesn't go quite to plan. But I really like that. I really like that scene. I thought that was really fun. I also like the scene just before that when they're introducing all the doctors.
Doctor.
And doctor.
And they go through it twice as well. Like when they're going in the tent and out of the tent.
It was a pre-Family Guy committed to the joke type
Definitely.
joke. Where Family Guy jokes go on and on and on,
yeah.
and you're like, I'm not sure this is funny, and then the longer it goes on, the funnier it gets.
Yeah, I mean, it is the fact that there's like doctor, and then he goes past the female one, doctor. And at the end of it, Dan Ackroyd, we're not doctors.
I really loved as well when when the female doctor that Chevy Chase is falls immediately in love with the second he sees
Yeah.
her. When she says to him, "Oh, you know, I've always been a big fan of yours, Doctor Greenbaum," and he's like, "Who?" She's like, "That's you. You're Doctor Greenbaum." He's like, "Yeah, of course." She's like, "Oh, Homer, I really do want to see you complete this appendix surgery." He's like, "Who's Homer?" She's like, "That's you." He's like, "Yeah, I know. I'm just testing you."
He's just like,
And then he like
yeah.
he like trips over like some like pots and pans and stuff. And
I mean, that's just
physical
Clark
performance,
Griswold, like in a nutshell.
Yeah, it
isn't
was very much so.
Just like that weird sort of like he's sort of cocksure, but he's really clumsy,
Awkward.
Yeah,
Clumsy. Yeah, and like Dan Aykroyd comes in the tent, and he's like just at that moment just started kissing this female doctor, and Dan Aykroyd comes in the tent, and he just turns around, he's mouthing like expletives to him that you can't.
Yeah.
I really like that scene. What about you? What do you say was your favourite scene?
I think that was one. I really like the one where he's getting they capture, like they march across the sort of, you know, the mountains and that in the snow, and then they get onto this road, and then the Russian police sort of like turn their headlights on and catch them, and Dan Aykroyd is sort of like, "Fuck it, I'm out of here," and he like runs off, like getting shot out of the machine gun. He
jumps off the side of the cliff.
While Chevy Chase just stands there, so he gets caught by the Russian police and the two KGB agents that you'd seen earlier in the thing, and they're interrogating him in this like police hut thing on the side of the road, like a checkpoint thing. And one of my favourite bits, favourite lines in the film is when one of the interrogators goes, "Every minute you don't tell us why you are here, I cut off a finger." And he's holding this like massive knife, isn't he? And he's like holding it, and it goes close up, and he's got it right, and he's like near his finger, he's cutting his glove and stuff. And then Chevy Chase just goes, "Mine or yours?" And he goes, "Yours." And then Chevy Chase goes, "Damn." And it's just stupid lines like that. It's just silly scenes.
There's some really stupid lines. I think, talking about favourite lines, there's a scene when they get. I was going to say they parachute, but they get pushed out of a plane during their training, and they land in the middle of the woods, and they're on their own. They look at each other and they hear like an animal noise, like a wah, wah, wah. And Chevy Chase turns to Dan Aykroyd and says, "What was that?" And Dan Aykroyd says, "It's a dickfur." And he's like, "What's a dickfur?" He's like, "It's a peewee."
Like, what? Why?
So random.
Yeah, it's like, it doesn't make any sense.
I felt like that was improvised.
Probably was. The other one I really like is when Dan Aykroyd goes to Chevy Chase. He's like, "For God's sake, show some balls." And he says, "I think it's too late to try and impress them." Such a good.
That's a Chevy Chase
line.
That's got to be a Chevy Chase line.
Yeah.
What about when they find the Russian intercontinental ballistic missile in the middle of the woods, and Ackroyd and Chase go down the cliff to distract them, dressed as aliens with like wrapped in like fairy lights.
They got like upside down umbrellas on their head, and yeah, it's very odd.
And they're kind of there, and the Russians are kind of talking, and they start to freak out because they see these two come down the side of the cliff. And obviously Ackroyd's the only one that can speak Russian, so Chevy Chase turns to him and says, "What are they saying?" And Ackroyd says something about hairbrush, headrest. And Chevy Chase goes, "Geez, where'd you learn your Russian, Jason?"
Yeah. Oh, you know what's weird though? You know, you said about the parachute scene, like where they jump out the plane. Did you recognise the guy that pushed him out the plane? The one that like was like, "Right, go."
I did recognise him.
It's so funny because we mentioned him during our video store corner for Highlander. It's Christopher Malcolm again, isn't it? The crazy GI mercenary guy from Highlander, and from that episode of Only Fools and Horses that I talked about during that episode. I just thought it was really funny that he was in this as well.
I felt like part of this was filmed in the UK. Is that right? It definitely had that feeling of.
It feels
there
like
was some
maybe,
moments in this.
I don't know. Not that I'd seen from the notes, but
the training scenes for me. They were also wearing what we used to call in the military DPM on their helmets, which is the British camouflage. And I felt like a lot of the extras, the area that they were filming, it looked like the UK. Also, John Landis, the director, who we haven't really mentioned.
No.
Obviously he's got a lot of credits that were filmed in the UK as well. So a lot of movies. But it was interesting. This was definitely one of my, I don't know about you, but one of my I would say least favorite John Landis comedy.
Yeah, it's lower down than, because what did he he's done Coming to America and Blues Brothers and Trading Places as well, Three Amigos. I'd say, it's lower down that list for me as the favorite for the other stuff he's done.
Yeah. Hence, I hadn't actually seen it as well, which was weird. So it was one of those, I don't think it was that popular. It wasn't up there with Three Amigos. Do you know what I mean? When Three Amigos came out, that was a fairly big hit, or at least well known. Trading Places is a classic.
Yeah.
Blues Brothers, Animal House, Landis has got a lot of great credits, and for me this didn't quite hit it. One of the things I did like about this is it's clearly a Dan Ackroyd script, or in part a Dan Ackroyd script, because of the level of detail that they go into on a lot of technology or terminology, a lot of the kind of NORAD type CIA bunker scenes in like the missile launch type facility. It all felt very authentic. Like you knew Ackroyd had done his research on all this stuff. Do you know what I mean? And was obsessed with the level of detail that he was going to put into a lot of the terminology. So I enjoyed that for the Ackroydness for sure. Yeah.
Do you want some trivia?
Yes, let's go. Phil's trivia section.
I still need to do it. I'm gonna do it. I've got to record a jingle for this. So, talking about sort of recasting Chevy Chase, the role was originally intended for John Belushi.
Is that right?
And definitely could have seen that.
Yeah,
would have worked really well.
Yeah. I was thinking this could be John Belushi, John Candy. You could have had in these roles.
Yeah, easy. Yeah. Yeah. This was a good little story actually. So as a guest on the Chevy Chase show in '93, Dan Aykroyd tells a story about him and Chevy Chase being pursued by a truck full of paratroopers while on location in Morocco. Ackroyd had taken a snapshot of the military unit, who then pursued them at high speeds back to their hotel, where they evaded detection by abandoning their Jeep and hiding inside a van with curtains in the windows. The next day, and this is brilliant, as a prank, Ackroyd had John Landis tell Chase that he had been arrested and should expect them to be coming for him next. That's brilliant. I thought that was pretty good. Apparently, this film was inspired by Bob Hope and Bing Crosby's road movies, thus explaining Bob Hope's cameo appearance, which is very odd.
Yeah,
That's so
it was
weird.
A random cameo, wasn't
He's like
it?
playing a round of golf through the tent that they're standing in. And he says, Doctor, when they come
Doctor.
Yeah.
Doctor.
And then disappears. Actually, there's the really cool fact that it's, the sort of John Landis trademark of featuring other people, so other filmmakers in his films. So this was, you see a lot of people. I don't know if you picked up on many of these, but I certainly picked up on seeing Sam Raimi and the Coen brothers. And then you've got Frank Oz, who plays the
Terry Gilliam.
Terry Gilliam. He plays one of the doctors. Michael Apted. You've got sort of Ray Harryhausen, and
he was one of the doctors as well, wasn't he?
So you got loads of people in this. It's really cool, like to see the different.
Who were the Coens?
One of them was standing next to Sam Raimi when they go into the drive-through cinema in the thing, and then when they go around the corner, before they go to get a Pepsi. And there's like some people standing outside, including BB King, which is just odd.
Was BB King out there?
With the glasses on, who tells them to go inside and get a Pepsi? Because I think John Landis had done a film with BB King previously, so He's in a few
Right.
things that he's done. So yeah, BB King's there, and the other Coen brother is there with another couple of the directors that I couldn't put faces to name.
Was Rami the one with the long hair?
No, Rami had the short hair with the cap on at the gate, like that let the car
Yeah.
through.
But there was one with the long hair
Yeah,
as well.
I think that's one of the Coens.
Ah, okay.
And then the other one was
yeah,
with BB King and stuff around the corner.
yeah, because it was Larry Cohen, but not
Not Ethan. Not
yeah,
Joel,
not
sorry.
Ethan. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
very well. Yeah, it was very odd, but it was good to see different cameos in there.
I love that. I didn't pick up on all of those. That's crazy, but I definitely picked up on Frank Oz. Obviously, as the in the classroom,
Invigilator.
and Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Frank Oz was brilliant in that as well. Just so pissed off the whole time. More trivia, only a couple. So Donna Dixon, who plays the female agent, that Chevy Chase falls immediately in love with, and Dan Aykroyd, they're married.
Wow.
And I think still married now. Like they've been together since 1980. I think they met or they tied the knot after working together on Dr. Detroit in '83. So they were
Wow.
together when this was made in '85.
I mean, I just want to say congratulations, Dan Aykroyd.
Yeah, punch in there.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so they're married. So they've done different stuff together. They've done various films and bits and pieces. Yeah. And then lastly, so the film originally ended with the destruction of the world.
That's caused by Dan Aykroyd and Chevy Chase.
Letting off the rocket, yeah. But test audiences didn't like it, so a new, happier ending was shot on a soundstage in Burbank.
That would make sense because there was a background scene where they were congratulating each other, and Chevy Chase turns to him and says, "Oh, can I borrow your tent?"
Yeah, that's right. Can I borrow your tent? Yeah.
You got a tent?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that whole lot on the soundstage with the missile or whatever was probably just redone.
Yeah, I just read here it was filmed at Pinewood Studios, so there was definitely I think there was definitely something there. Yeah, there was the outside of a soundstage you saw when they were training as well, which looks like a hangar.
Yeah.
But yeah, I figured. Yeah, I did figure.
You know what?
That. So I guess a lot of those extras.
You know what else was cool about that as well? Is like all of the military guys doing the hut 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 hut, which they do in the Blues Brothers as well. It's like the trademark again, isn't it? And I think they do that in Stripes as well with Bill Murray. They do the hut.
I feel like
it's not a John Landis film, I don't think, but yeah, that's weird. But yeah, so that was Spies Like Us. Anything you want to add?
Would you recommend Spies?
I
Like
would.
Us
I would. It's not terrible. It's always good to see Chevy Chase and like in his prime and
it's peak Chase, peak Chevy Chase, isn't it?
Yeah, and Dan Aykroyd's brilliant in it, but I think he's brilliant in pretty much anything he does anyway.
I mean, this came out the same year as Fletch.
Yeah.
Which, kind of, and it came out a year after Ghostbusters. Oh, and by the way, while we're on Ghostbusters, of course, this was written by Ackroyd.
Yep.
Soundtrack, Elmer Bernstein.
Yeah.
Same composer.
Yeah.
And there were some moments in it that were very Ghostbusters.
Yeah, there were. Yeah.
When they come down as when they come down the side of the cliff as aliens.
Yeah, definitely.
I really enjoyed actually the score to this. I thought it was really, really good.
Actually, that song that they're playing. Sorry, just to go again, another bit of trivia. The song that they're playing, when they see the rocket for the first time and the Russians are dancing to a song, I think, and again, there's a link. I can't remember.
Is it Soul? What was it called? Soul World or something
like that. I can't remember who it was by, but it's like the Bar Ras or something like that. But yeah, he
Soul. There we go. Soul Finger.
That's it. Yeah. So Dan Aykroyd and John Belushi recorded that on the Blues Brothers, like one of the albums like that they did as the Blues Brothers band. So they did like a live version of that. So that's why you probably put the song in there.
Yeah, that was funny when they say what they hear that first. They hear the song first, and they're in the middle of like Siberia or whatever, and they're walking along, and Chevy Chase kind of is like listening, and Dan Aykroyd goes, "That's Soulfinger," and by the Barcades.
Yeah,
and Chevy Chase goes, "They must be struggling to find these." It's in the middle of the woods. It's hard to recreate these jokes because, like, they're like when you watch them, they're little like things that just make you kind of guffaw, don't
Yeah.
they? You hear them, you just go, huh!
Yeah.
You know, it's that kind of humor. I enjoyed it. You know, it's not a classic for obvious reasons. It's slightly imbalanced, I think, comedy to drama in places. But you've got two really good central performances from Chevy Chase and Dan Ackroyd. Really nicely written by Dan Ackroyd. If you're a big fan of Dan Ackroyd, I'd definitely recommend that. Or of course Chevy Chase. All in all, worth a watch. I think I'm going to change my name to Emmett Fitzhume.
Yeah, I'm now known as Austin Milbarge.
Austin. All right, well, we'll be sure to write any letters of complaint to the Schmechtel Corporation. So that was Video Store Corner, and that was this week's podcast. On next week's Movie Mouth Film and TV podcast, we've got some incredible new releases to discuss. We are also circling a couple of interviews for this year, so we will be back to our usual program of interviews from people behind the scenes in the filmmaking world. And of course, we'll have the latest film news, trailer breakdowns, and crappy banter, you could say. But if you love listening to our podcast, please do give us a like or throw us some 5-star reviews on your podcast player of choice. You can obviously download the episode and do subscribe as well. It's really important that you subscribe so that you get the latest episode automatically downloaded to your podcast player of choice. Phil.
Yes.
What was that noise?
What? That's me going, yes. Oh.
Sounded like a dick for.
What's a dick for?
To be with.
For fuck's sake.
Bye, Phil.
Bye-bye.